You can cry on command.
But they are usually very fast, and that is why I decided to create this. Welcome to Free Talk, the show to help you learn English the fun and simple way. Ready?
Hello and welcome back to Free Talk Podcast. Welcome to this special episode. This is the first of many special episodes that we are going to make here at Free Talk for you. As you know, we are making new episodes every Wednesday, and on these episodes we are dealing with common topics that we think might be of interest for all of you. But the episode of today is a little different because it's, I think, more specific. So why did we decide to make this special podcast? Well, because today, Friday, December the 18th, marks a very, very special event for a lot of people. And that is the launch of the new and very long-awaited movie of Star Wars. It's Star Wars Episode 7. This is a movie that has created a lot of expectation, a lot of, I think, maybe even some controversy around it, especially because the recent acquisition of the Star Wars rights by the Disney Corporation. But, well, we are going to dig deeper. We are going to go into more detail in the course of this episode. So, well, this podcast is, I wouldn't say that is especially or unique for Star Wars people, but if you are not a Star Wars fan, maybe this is not your cup of tea, maybe you are not really interested in this topic, and if that is the case, well, that is completely comprehensible, so you can come back here next Wednesday for a regular episode of Free Talk. So then let's start by saying, or by me telling you why I decided to talk about this movie. Of course, one of the reasons is because this is such a big thing happening right now that everybody's talking around it. Everybody's talking about it. So even if you are not in the, we can call it the Star Wars community, even if you are not a Star Wars fan, you know that there is a new Star Wars movie coming out because it's everywhere. It's in every TV show, and a lot of products are making now products about Star Wars. You know, I recently heard that there were things as bizarre as, I think, Maybelline or Revlon, so you know, cosmetics company, makeup company, and they were making products related to Star Wars. And also there is this picture going on the internet about some Star Wars oranges. So I cannot see the connection between those two things, but that is how much interest and how much attention is being generated by this new movie. So let's talk about the movie itself. Let's talk about the things that we know about the movie. And before I start talking about Star Wars, I think it's important for you to know that I am not an expert on the topic. I am not a connoisseur. You know, a connoisseur is a word. It's actually a word that comes from French. I will spell it out for you. It's CONNOISSEUR. Connoisseur. Connoisseur is a word derived from French. It's a French word, and it means a person who knows a lot. So you have, for example, art connoisseurs or wine connoisseurs, and this means that these people know a lot about the topic. We can have, of course, Star Wars connoisseurs. I am not one of those persons. I am not an expert in the subject. And actually, I was introduced to these movies and to this epic saga not a long time ago. I think maybe 2012, 2013, something like that. And I was actually introduced to these movies because of an ex-girlfriend of mine. She was really into Star Wars. She really liked the movies and she was insisting me on watching them. And I agreed. I said, okay, let's watch them. And I was completely fascinated by the movies. I really, really love the movies. And even before I watched any of the movies, I knew what Star Wars was. And I am sure that even if you are not a Star Wars fan yourself, you know some things about Star Wars. We are all familiar with Yoda and the Master Yoda and his particular way of speaking, and Darth Vader and the sounds that he makes, and Luke Skywalker and lightsabers and the Jedi Force and all those things. We know those things, even if we never watched any of the movies. And the reason why that happens is because this has been a really cultural, I would say even almost universal phenomenon happening in the world. That is how much presence Star Wars has in pop culture. So we all know what they, when somebody mentions Star Wars, you can say I like it or I don't like it, I have seen it or I have not seen it, but you know what they are talking about. So let's go then directly into this the release of this new movie. Today is the world premiere of the movie. The movie has been premiered in different parts of the world before this week. I think Wednesday was the European premiere or Monday, something like that. So some people have already watched the movie. Some people are ahead of us. They have some kind of advantage over us because they have seen the movie already. But the world premiere is happening today. So a lot of people are going to the movies today and finally see what this new movie is about. Personally, I am not going to watch the movie today, and I think that maybe I will not watch the movie anytime soon, because I didn't make any preparations for that. I didn't buy tickets, I don't have a reservation, I didn't pre-order my tickets. So I suppose that maybe I will be watching the movie. I don't know, it depends on the availability. If I can put some tickets in my hand in the next days. But I think it's going to be maybe a week, maybe two. Anyway, so let's talk about the movie itself. This new movie of Star Wars, the Episode 7, is the actual continuation of the story. Because let's see how this story was constructed, how this story was built. The original movie, Star Wars Episode 4, was released, so it was premiered on 1977. So that is almost 40 years ago, 38 years ago. And it was intended, the original idea for this movie was to be only one movie. So there was no trilogy. They didn't have the intention of making 3 movies and later 6 movies and now 7 and more movies to come. So it was created and it was written and it was thought of. So people, in this case George Lucas, was thinking on the idea of making one movie about Star Wars. But because of the success of the movie, because immediately after the release of the first movie, there was so much success and so much buzz around this new movie and about this new story that they said immediately, okay, we are going to make 2 more movies and we are going to complete this trilogy. And that is why initially the first movie was not called the Episode 4. It was only called A New Hope. So they didn't have numbers. But then when they decided to make this new these 2 more movies to complete the trilogy, they came up with the idea of making like a a story that was not complete. So it was only episodes 4, 5, and 6, but we didn't have episodes 1, 2, and 3. So this meant the signification, the implication of this was that the story was not complete. These first 3 movies, the first 3 movies of the original trilogy, now it's called the original trilogy, were released one after the other with a difference of 3 years between each other. So the original movie, the first movie, was released in 1977, the second movie in 1980, and the third movie in 1983. And this was, for a lot of people, that was like a closed story. So there was no more history to tell. That was it. Even George Lucas, the director and producer and creator of this story, said, that's it. We are finished. This story is finished. It's over. Let's move on. And the original trilogy, for a lot of people, is considered to be the best of all the movies, because it introduced a new, different kind of movies. The concept was something new. It was science fiction, but the special effects and all these situations happening in the movie were something new for a lot of people, and it created almost immediately a great group of people who became like hardcore fans of the saga, and they started like it became a cult movie. Cult, C-U-L-T, cult movie. That means that people in some way idolize this movie. It's not just a movie. For a lot of people, it's like an experience, and it's a lifestyle, and it became something really, really big. So after the third movie, 16 years had to happen before we could see a new movie. 16 years of waiting. The next trilogy was announced, and they said, okay, so we are going to make 3 more movies, and we are going to close this story. We are going to put an end to this story. So after 16 years, the new movie was the episode 1, and this was released in 1999. Then in 2002 came out the second movie of this new trilogy, and that was the episode 2. And then in 2005 they made the episode 3, and that was really closing now for good, like officially or definitely, the story, because now we had the complete trilogy, the original trilogy and the prequels trilogy. Prequel means what comes before, and this was something strange, maybe a little bit unusual, because usually when we watch movies in order. So we have the episode 1, then 2, then 3. If there are more movies, then 4, then 5, then 6. But this was like a different order. So we have 4, 5, 6, and then 1, 2, 3. But anyway, the story was closed. The story was finished. So now we had a complete idea of the entire Star Wars universe. And then, so this movie was released in 2005, the episode 3, and then 7 years happened, 7 years went by, 7 years passed, and we learned, so we heard, we knew that Disney Corporation had acquired the rights of the movies, the rights of Star Wars. And immediately after this transaction, they said, okay, so now we have the rights of Star Wars. What are we going to do? We are going to start producing a new movie about this story. So for a lot of people, and myself included, this was a bit of a shock. It was kind of, I don't know, strange news, because Disney and Star Wars are not things that you can easily associate with one another. If you think of Disney, you think of cartoons, you think of things for kids. And Star Wars it's certainly not something like that. Star Wars is basically something for older people. So the combination seemed bizarre, seemed, I don't know, strange. And they immediately started with the production, and then they said who the director was going to be, and the director of this new movie is J.J. Abrams. Yes, J.J. Abrams. Sorry, J.J. Abrams, and he is a director, and he has had some experience in the past with science fiction. He directed, I think, a couple of the Star Trek movies. So then they started the production, and I mean that was in 2012, and the release of the movie is this year, actually this day, 2015. So this was 3 years of production, because imagine all the work that you need to make a movie like this. And not only because the movie is already like a cult thing, not only because the movie requires a lot of work, but because of the expectations. Think about the technology that we had 40 years ago and the technology that we have now. So now we are like more, I don't know, we are eager. So we really want to see what this new technology can bring to this story. I'm sure that maybe the special effects and the production things are going to be amazing. What we don't know, what we are still questioning ourselves about, is the story. Because what is the story? If we already have the entire trilogy closed, what is the story? Well, what we know is that this new story is going to be now it's going to be the sequel. So now the episode 7 is going to be the continuation of the last film of the original trilogy. What they have confirmed, what they have made official, is that this movie is going to take place. It's going to happen 30 years after the Battle for Endor. The Battle for Endor is, of course, an imaginary battle, an imaginary story that was created inside, within the Star Wars universe. So this makes complete sense because thanks to this storyline, thanks to this story that they are going to give us, we can see again on the screen some people from the original cast. So we are going to be able to see Mark Hamill on the movie. So he's the guy who played Luke Skywalker, and we are going to see Carrie Fisher. She was playing Princess Leia in the original trilogy, and of course Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford is of course Han Solo, one of the best characters of the movie in my opinion. But thanks to this new story, they can come back to the movie because the movie takes place 30 years after that battle that I mentioned. So this means that the people are the age that they are supposed to be in a normal scenario. So 30 years happen and they are 30 years older. So now it makes sense in this way. But that is the only thing we know, because we don't really know what is going to be this story about. Maybe if you are listening to this podcast after you watched the movie, now you know what the story is about. But for me, in this case, that I don't have any information, and that I have not seen the movie. For me, it's all questions. I don't know what the story is going to be. I'm really excited about it. I've seen the trailers, and the movie seems great. These new characters, the new stormtrooper, and the new droids. Like this. I don't remember what is the name of this droid that is like a ball and goes rolling around, and the new we could say the new bad guy of the movie. I think it's called Ray something. Ray is the girl. So this new guy, the dark guy of the story, is Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren, who is in some trailers using this lightsaber with 3 angles. So, of course, we are not going to watch Darth Vader anymore, and we are going to see the introduction of this new character, Kylo Ren. So the story is very promising. We can expect something good from it, but I think that only after watching the movie we can make our own judgment and we can make our own opinion about the movie. What it's a reality is that now we are facing a new trilogy, because if things, I'm not sure if it's official, but if things continue in the way that they were before, we maybe are going to watch episode 7, episode 8, and episode 9 of the trilogy, and maybe more episodes to come in the future. So, well, I think that's basically it. That's basically all we know so far. At least it's basically all I know. I am really looking forward to watching this movie. I really want to watch this movie. Again, maybe I will have to wait for a week, maybe a couple of weeks, I don't know. But something worries me right now, because the internet is full of people who might spoil the movie for me, who might ruin the movie for me. I am living right now with the expectation of discovering this new story by watching the movie. I don't want to know what is the story if somebody tells me, or if I read a tweet, or if I accidentally read an article or something like that. I really want to learn this new story by going to the movies and watching the episode 7. And maybe this means that I will have to stay away from the internet, or stay away from dangerous places in the internet, because I don't want people to spoil the movie for me. So that's going to be the end of this podcast. I really want to make this podcast short, for, of course, many reasons. One of them is that, as I told you, I am not an expert in the Star Wars universe and in the Star Wars information. So I don't have like more things to tell you. I don't know if I cannot tell you things that maybe you already know. So the intention of this podcast was just to give you something different, maybe to something that you could consider interesting if you are part of the Star Wars fandom, if you are part of the people who like Star Wars, and of course to give you some more material to listen. I really hope that this episode was not so boring. Maybe it was boring, but if you want to listen to people who know more about this, there are a lot of other places, a lot of other podcasts specialized in Star Wars subjects. I am just giving you my opinion, my feelings, and sharing with you some of the information that I have on my own about Star Wars. So thank you very much for listening to this special episode of Free Talk Podcast. If you have any topic that you want to discuss here, that you want me to discuss, something that you want to listen to in this podcast, that is maybe, we could say, also a little bit specific, like in the past episodes I have discussed topics that I think are interesting for the big majority of people, for population in general. Star Wars may or may not be one of those subjects, but we can make some special episodes to talk about more specific and more topics that are more focused to specific people or specific interest or specific things. So thank you very much for listening to this podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for all your support. as I mentioned during the last episode, we are in this relevant section of iTunes, so we continue in that section, and that is all because of you, because you keep coming to this show, you keep listening to the episodes, and I would love to hear from you. I would love to start getting to know you. So if you leave me a comment, you can leave me a comment here in the iTunes section. You can leave me a comment on my webpage. You can leave me a comment on Facebook, on Twitter, anywhere. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear your opinion about this show and your recommendations for future topics. So thank you very much once again. I will see you next Wednesday for our regular episodes. Next Wednesday it is December 23rd, so it's almost Christmas. So we are going to have a topic about Christmas. Okay, so if you are interested in that, please join us next Wednesday for this new episode of Free Talk Podcast. Thank you very much. I will see you. Well, I will not see you, but you will listen to me next Wednesday at 6 p.m. 6 p.m. it's local time in Mexico. I don't know what is the local time wherever you are listening to this podcast, but every Wednesday 6 p.m. Mexico time you will have a new episode to listen. I will see you next week, and remember to keep it simple. See you then.
Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars. Give me the Star Wars, don't let them end. Star Wars, if they should bar wars, please let these Star Wars stay. And hey, how about that nutty Star Wars bar? Can you forget all the creatures in there? And hey, Darth Vader in that black and evil mask, did he scare you as much as he scared me? Star Wars, those near in Star Wars, my seventh winner up here, Star